Well, there's certainly melody in the beats, and even some rappers rapping slash singing certainly has melody.
All right, I gotta give props to Zuby here. I'm not familiar with Zuby's work. I didn't even know who he was before I turned this on, and maybe that reflects bad on me. So props to Zuby for actually keeping us cool, giving a calm, civilized argument, which, touched on some of the things I touched on, but also gave more perspective into what it's like to be a rapper. So props to Zuby. I would have not kept my cool. I'm not keeping my cool right now, and I think I'm just an angry person.
Like that, it vibes with you, and you're feeling with that.
Right, I mean, that's subjective.
That's totally subjective.
So my other kind of artistic criticism of rap is.
All right, I just feel like Ben just really needs to fucking listen, and he is listening. I'm not saying he's not, but what I really mean by that is, like, there's two people in this room right now, and we're talking about rap. One of them is a conservative political pundit whose dad was a music theorist. The other one is a fucking rapper. Who is going to give the better perspective on this topic? Like, let's be honest here. And I'm not saying Ben can't sit and talk about whatever he wants, but it's also just like, he's got to understand who has the better perspective and who he needs to be getting his information from. And, that second after he talked, he doesn't affirm anything that Zuby says. He just goes right back to his fucking criticisms based on what his father said. And, you can have a degree in music and all this other shit, and you have plenty of perspective to talk about music, but in the end, what we're looking at here is just an overweight of education over perspective. And what I'm saying there, in less pretentious and stupid terms, is just, I feel like Ben, has every right in the world to have an opinion. So I'm not coming at him for, using his free speech or something like that, like he thinks I am. But I feel it's fundamentally wrong for him to just, not consider the perspective of the man sitting in front of him, who is a rapper himself, on the question, is rap music real music? Just because you have a father who has been educated on music and has this solid definition, this solid theory on what he in particular considers to be music, that doesn't take away from the perspective of a man who's been making this kind of music for all his life. So the idea that, just some petty education means more than actual field work is ridiculous.
Rap is written. So I have this kind of theory, and it holds true across all musical form, which is that art and craft are not in opposition, but very often they seem to be placed in opposition, meaning there's, and this leads to my criticism of rock along the same lines as my criticism of rap, which was that rock was an actual degradation of skill for music from jazz, which was actually a degradation of skill from classical. That the amount of talent and work, mostly work, that you have to put into mastering a classical instrument is a lot higher than the amount of talent that and work you'd have to put into playing three chords in a rock song. And so when it comes to the lyrics in rap, maybe, I'm sure, part of it is because I just don't have a lot of experience listening to a lot of rap, but it seems like that there's a lot of praise that's put out for particular rappers who it seems to me are doing something that doesn't seem innately very difficult. It doesn't seem like the lyrics have exact rhyme. I have this criticism of in musical theater, this is one of my criticisms of Lin-Manuel Miranda, actually, is that he doesn't use exact rhyme enough. He uses near rhymes, and he uses sort of easier forms of rhyme very often and stacks lyrics in order to make things sound more complex than they are. And then you watch movies about rap, and it seems like somebody just gets up on the mic and they just go.
All right, so I try to follow what this man has been saying, and, he goes on for a while, and I try to wait until he was done, but I can't. He's getting me too frustrated, and there's a lot of points I have to... Okay, so the reason rap isn't good is because it doesn't take enough skill. This is another sphere where Ben is just lacking perspective, which he admits himself. He gives this great, grand theory that classical is more skillful than jazz, and then jazz got degraded to rock, which, Jesus Christ, we need to publish him in books already on this shit, because this is gold. I think it's clear to me that Ben was raised in an overly academic environment, and, I was too, so I can tell that kind of shit. And from what I can see, saying that classical is the most skilled form of... He ranks it by skill, essentially. Why does he think classical is the most skillful genre? Well, what I can see is, classical is, kind of like the starting point of music theory. That's kind of like where we start. Classical is very formulaic, it's very mathematical, it's very technical. Jazz, he says, is a degradation from classical music. And the only reason I could see as to why he thinks that is because since classical is so mathematical and formulaic. Jazz was kind of an adaptation of classical music that, you know, it doesn't rely on those technicalities. It doesn't rely on the as much theory, I guess, as classical music does. Does that make it any less? No. Why might it be, you know, more improv and more, well, jazz, you know, started as a way as a form of expression in, you know, poorer communities, maybe where, you know, music education wasn't as appreciated. So if they wanted to make music, they had to, you know, rely on the feelings that they had within in order to express their emotions, in order to express themselves musically. And while it wasn't as mathematical, it's much more raw, and it brings out so much more feeling. Just to discount that and say it's less skilled is ridiculous. Emotional energy should be counted just as much as academic or, you know, intellectual energy. And I feel like Ben is really discounting that. I'm not the biggest jazz fan, I'm not the biggest rock fan, not the biggest classical fan, but anybody can tell that all of them are skilled in their own ways. Classical to jazz to rock, as Ben is explaining, it's just a more gradual kind of evolution into more accessible forms of art. Another thing our boy Benward talks about here is he says that rap is lyrically less skillful than most other genres. And before I go any farther, we need to just talk about how fucking big of a range that rap has. Because if you're talking Kendrick Lamar, get the fuck out of here. Because the way his rhyme schemes are, like, not even just Kendrick, fucking J. Cole, Eminem, which he probably likes Eminem just because he's white, but, you know, like, numerous amounts of rappers are incredibly skillful. So I don't know where he's coming from saying that rap doesn't take any lyrical skill. He also criticizes Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton for using slant rhymes, and I don't know, that just proves to me how ignorant Ben might be on art or writing in general, because slant rhymes are wildly recognized as legitimate literary elements in poetry. Sometimes you can't just get that full rhyme. Nothing can work, or maybe it just sounds corny. Also, it just brings such a wider range of, you know, words you can use when you use slant rhymes. It brings such a wider range of material. It's honestly really, really helpful to use slant rhymes when trying to take on different subject matters. And by focusing on certain syllables in order to make slant rhymes, not only do you widen the range of subject matter you can pertain to, but it also kind of increases that use of creativity. The sounds that he plays with is more particular, and it sounds a lot cooler and a lot better. So the fact that he says slant rhymes are not legitimate is just in itself fucking dumb as shit. Let's say he's talking in terms of what white people call mumble rap. And I'm a white person, so I don't know why I'm coming at myself about that, but fuck it. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it takes the most skill to be, you know, a trap rapper. But for one, I think that it takes a lot more skill than we realize. For two, I don't think skill should determine how much quality art has to present. Cardi is done with Whole Lotta Red, according to an article that he recently did with Fader. But the thing is like, he wants to top his shit. He's in the studio every night trying to you know, see if there's any way he can top what's already there. If he can better the sounds that he's already made. It's not just about the amount of skill it takes, it's about the sounds in itself and how, you know, much they produce some kind of emotional connection with the listener. And obviously, to a large extent, Cardi has been able to do that, especially in the terms of production, which production is a whole other fucking animal to, you know, discuss, because production takes a long ass fucking time. So I think that Ben just doesn't really have any perspective into how much work it takes to produce a trap album. Oh god, if you watch that fucking documentary about Travis Scott, Look Mama I Can Fly, you can tell that he puts in a lot of effort and a lot of thought into what his work is. In general, I feel that Ben just needs to, you know, actually go in there with Playboy Cardi, maybe Lil Uzi, anybody, and just see what it takes to create what they do. And then if he just comes in and says, that's a slant rhyme, I don't like that, man, I promise you, if he was a producer for a trap album, it would flop. It's just as pure of a music form as any other, and it takes just as much energy. I feel like people don't like it because it's typically a voice for the undereducated. And so obviously Ben is not going to understand it, so the fact that he's sitting here trying to shit on it is just a little bit disrespectful. No, not even a little bit, just really disrespectful. And I wanted to call him out on that. So thank you all for watching. This took me fucking forever to make because I'm actually a horrible speaker, and that's why I don't really talk that much. I like to write more, and I'm really happy that I ended up accruing somewhat of a following, but I'm gonna have to edit this shit a lot because there are a lot of pauses, there are a lot of stutters in there, and I'm sorry for that, but I really hope you guys enjoy it. So y'all stay tuned, all right? Later.